introduction. I'm very excited to be in this room, and I'll start off by explaining why I'm so excited to be in this room. And I think what it really is I think there's a real value in intergenerational organizing and collaboration. I think there's a lot to be said about young people leading the charge. There's a lot to be said about the movements that have been spearheaded by young people all over the world for hundreds and hundreds of years and thousands of years. But I think there's also something to be said about the wisdom, experience, knowledge, connections, understanding of nuance that other generations have. And I'll say that I've kind of been all over the place in the last few years. I'm 21 years old. I've been at this since I was 12 years old. I'm a first generation American. And my start in activism and politics was when I was 12 years old. My mother was a part of the National Organization for Women in the local chapter. Very passionate feminist, very passionate on immigrants' rights. She's a Jewish refugee from Ukraine. And she brought me to this meeting of the National Organization for Women, and I was 12 years old. And I left the meeting, and I remember saying, "Mom, I'm really glad that you brought me to that meeting, but I was the youngest person there by at least 4 decades. Besides you, like, a lot of these issues don't pertain to me. But at the same time, I really respect these women that I was with." And of course, I said it a little differently because I was 12 years old, but I remember that distinct feeling of, I have a different experience and I have a different worldview, but I could really benefit from the worldview of the people that have been at this, who are marching through the streets and fundamentally change the status quo for women so that I can live the life that I lead. And so I think when we're talking about the fundamental issues that impact my generation today, I think there's absolutely something to be said about young people leading the charge. Why I think that is because I'm a digital native. I grew up on media. I know the young people here remember the era of Tumblr and growing up on Instagram, and kind of everything you have is online. You don't really have privacy. When I look up my name, I see things from years and years and years ago, pictures of me that I'd rather not have online, where I was, just a little, awkward 13-year-old girl. And I think that's something that we fundamentally understand because that's who we are and that's what we've grown up with. At the same time, when I was in high school, it was really, I think, the rise of Instagram memes. And in my first year of high school, a very close friend of mine was radicalized by the alt-right online through social media. And it completely changed my worldview. It changed my trajectory of what I was interested in and what I wanted to do with my life. And that person became very, very violent. And this happened before I even understood what a social media algorithm was. And now fast forward, I'm 21 years old, I'm at Barnard, I'm studying political science and science policy, I'm studying algorithms, I'm studying AI, that's what I'm working with. So I understand what happened to him more now, but I'm fundamentally just as disturbed by it now than I was then, even more so because I recognize it wasn't just him. It's an entire generation, and it's not just being radicalized into the alt-right, it's being forced into a depression. It's being forced into body dysmorphia. It's being forced into spaces on the internet that are otherwise harmful for you. But even if it's not happening at that extreme of a scale, we are still feeling fundamentally, my generation, socially isolated, even though we're more connected as a civilization than we've ever been before. And no one has really started inquiring until very recently as to why that is. And I think we have to make that inquiry, but we can't make that inquiry alone, because I wasn't there when the internet revolution happened. My parents were. I wasn't there for some of these major social movements that my grandparents were here for. They were. So while I have the understanding because I have a lived experience and I personally get it, and now I work on social media. Outside of the other work I do, I run a social media platform on Instagram and TikTok related to advancing the status of women all around the world through delivering early career information through technology and social media. And that comes after I've worked in social media for organizations, just as a young person giving advice on how to post on social media. But for the first time, I'm me online. And that has been a remarkably terrifying experience. I've experienced a lot of gender-based hate. I've experienced being doxxed. I've experienced having disinformation out there about me personally. And that's been really, really frightening. And so I want to say that I know that we can't do this alone, but I also encourage you to, if you're not a member of Gen Z, there's a few of us in here actually, that you listen to our perspectives, you understand where you're coming from, but you also understand that we can't do this alone. that we fundamentally can't just change the world because we have energy. If people could just change the world because they had energy, I think the world would look a little different. So I think what I want to just leave you with today and tonight, and as you're going about the rest of your week, is in general, I'm very excited about this movement, about this energy, and I think there's a lot that's been cultivating and building over the last few months around this issue. I know some of you may have watched the hearings that happened over the past few days related to algorithms and AI and all that stuff. But I think what the Sustainable Media Center is doing is really interesting. And I think this is an issue that we really have to be paying attention to, not just because it impacts my generation, but it impacts all of our generations. It impacts the future of the world. It impacts your legacy. It impacts my legacy. So I really implore you just to think really critically about what you want your role in this to be and what skills you bring to the table. Because I think a lot of times there's sort of this idea that you have to be an expert in a particular topic to speak on a particular topic. And there's people from all different industries, sectors, worldviews, life experiences in this room, and all of you have a lot to contribute to this particular argument. And I can't do it alone, my generation can't do it alone, policymakers can't do it alone. It's really going to require all hands on deck. So I'm incredibly excited to be part of this mission, both personally and also as part of the Sustainable Media Center. And I really implore you all to take this time to meet with people and talk a little bit and figure out what your piece of the pie is going to be in this, because I fundamentally believe that this is the most important issue facing not only my lifetime, but the future of human civilization. And so I know that's very weighty and that's very heavy, but I think we all have a little thing that we can do to be a part of the solution here, or just to be part of the reinvention of the wheel. So thank you so much, Steve, for having me as part of this mission, and thank you, Bradley, for having us in your space, and I'm really excited to see what the rest of the night looks like. Thank you, guys.